I should put this up front that I'm not exactly a phone reviewer, and this video won't contain much in the way of comparisons. It's more my impressions of using the phone rather than a proper review. Good? Great. This is the Oppo Find X5 Lite 5G. A rather stylish, mid-priced phone with some interesting features, as well as decent performance and cameras. Let's take a look at it. First off, the specs. This 5G-enabled Wi-Fi 6 touting device uses a MediaTek Dimensity 900 8-core CPU with a Mali G68 MC4 GPU. If that means anything to you, then, well, there you go. If not, here are the Geekbench scores. Oh, that still doesn't mean anything to you? Yeah, me neither. But looking at the Geekbench leaderboard, that places this right around the Snapdragon 845 or 855 in the OnePlus 6T or 7, which is definitely not bad. You also get 8GB of LPDDR4X 2133 RAM, which isn't too shabby either, along with 256GB of UFS 2.2x2 storage, which is plenty as long as you don't take 1 million photos a year and literally never move any of them off the phone. But the real star of the spec sheet show, if you like, is the dual 2,250 mAh batteries that are run in series and the 65 watt Super VOC charging. That is rather impressive. The fairly weighty wall plug can charge the dual batteries in this thing from dead to 100% in just 31 minutes. That is fast enough to mean that no matter what situation, as long as you have literally like 5 minutes and the charging brick and the beefy USB-C cable that it comes with, you'll be good for charge always. I mean, battery life in and of itself was pretty decent, easily lasting a full day of moderate use, but the fact that you can top this up in an instant is definitely a bonus. Of course, the battery life is affected by the display, a 6.43-inch 2400 by 1080 90Hz AMOLED display with Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Brightness is going to be the sort of major factor in that battery life dilemma, which peaks at 430 nits typically, although it can boost to 600 nits in sunlight or even up to 800 nits when viewing HDR content, meaning it's plenty bright enough in almost all situations. It even covers 100% of the DCI-P3 spectrum, meaning that anything from gaming to content consumption looks great on this. What also makes it look great is the smooth 90Hz refresh rate, which sadly you only have a manual option to switch it to 60Hz rather than an adaptive refresh rate option, especially for your battery life, but it still looks beautiful, content looks great, as does gaming. And speaking of gaming, it's actually a surprisingly good experience. Playing an FPS game like PUBG Mobile is somewhat let down by the single bottom-firing speaker that your hand will definitely cover while trying to play games, and the lack of stereo sound from the earpiece speaker, but you do get a headphone jack, which, if you do want to hear those footsteps, is a nice option, and the actual in-game experience is pretty decent. The performance is great, and you even have a dedicated high-performance gaming mode if you want to get a bit of extra FPS at the cost of some battery life. You also have 180Hz touch input, which makes it relatively smooth and fairly, decent enough to play, at least from a casual perspective. Now, as is becoming the absolute key for smartphones, the camera package is honestly the biggest talking point. It's comprised of 3 cameras, a 64 megapixel 80.5 degree main camera, an 8 megapixel 118.9 degree ultra wide camera, and a 2 megapixel 88.8 degree fixed focus macro camera. Strangely absent here is a telephoto option, which I think has to be my most used camera on my OnePlus 7T Pro. In fact, I don't think I've ever bothered using the ultra-wide, so to have that missing here is a bit of a shame. So let's take a look at some of the images. This is a 64 megapixel still from the main camera, and it looks okay. The color science, I would say, is a little bit off. The greens, the blue of the sky, all of that wasn't quite how it was, in real life. This is the 16 megapixel image with the standard sort of AI enhancement stuff enabled, and if I'm being honest, it's very similar. It's actually pretty hard to discern a quality difference. Putting them side by side, it's still pretty hard for me to say that one is noticeably better than the other, and even while zooming in, again, it's relatively hard for me to argue that while there is a touch more sharpness in the 64 megapixel one, this is zoomed in way more than you'd ever need, and there's no real difference. If you zoom out again with the ultra-wide, you get an even almost worse color science. That's an incredibly flat sort of grey-green on the trees on the left, which is not what it looked like in reality. The zoom mode, the 2x zoom, basically just crops in on the sensor. So obviously you have the resolution to do that, but again, the color science does seem just a touch off. The close-up footage, or the close-up pictures, actually look pretty nice. This is a very vibrant green, looks a lot better than the wide shots, although the macro camera, yeah, it's dreadful. It's horrible. Comparing to my OnePlus 7T Pro in its macro mode, you can see not only the resolution difference and the clarity, but also just the color science. It's worlds apart. Also, comparing to my OnePlus 7T Pro, the telephoto, the Zoom 3x camera, I would argue looks much better than the Find X's general zoom, and honestly the color science looks a lot better on the 7T Pro in general. There's also a pretty shocking 32 megapixel front-facing hole punch camera for some impressively top quality selfies. Of course, this being an Oppo phone, it comes chock full of filters and Facetune type features, which almost exclusively are designed to work with Asian women's faces and not a pasty Scotsman like me. If you're into that thing, it's there, although I actually had one of the modes I had fun with was the stickers mode, where they've basically copied Apple's Animojis, save for the ability to record videos with them. The duck one was a bit terrifying, but also quite hilarious to play with. You do get portrait mode on both front and rear facing cameras, which works about as well as pretty much every other portrait mode I've used. It mostly works, definitely looks fake, and personally I wouldn't use it all that much, but I don't take many selfies, so maybe I'm biased. Surprisingly, you even get portrait mode when recording video too, which is definitely a nice option. In fact, the video, its options in general, are all kind of pretty interesting. All of the additional modes, everything from the AI enhancements to the portrait mode to the super steady video options, all require you to be recording at 1080p, not the maximum 4K. And it will drop you out of the 4K mode for almost anything, and you need to manually set it back to 4K even with whatever feature that you enabled switched back off again, which can get a bit annoying and mean that you can, effectively miss out on some quality with those sorts of, you just want to record something quickly and it's recorded in 1080 instead of 4K. It's a bit annoying. They even have a dual recording mode, which records both from the front and back cameras simultaneously, so you can get that sort of, watching your baby first steps and your face recording the kind of reaction to it at the same time. Video quality in general, much like the photos, is perfectly usable. It's hardly the best you'll see from smartphones and a far cry from even a dedicated camera like a Sony RX100, but it's pretty standard for the class and price tag, so I can't be too mad at it. Some other things to note: you get both an under-screen fingerprint sensor, which works pretty well, alongside face unlock using the front camera, which again works most of the time. The screen is actually fairly active to turn itself on or even be an always on display if you fancy. Thanks to it being an OLED, that's not too much of a problem. The USB-C ports and actually the included C to A dongle actually support reverse charging, meaning that you could charge another phone from yours, which is actually kind of handy considering how quickly you can charge this one up. And also, just by how many AI features there are, almost it's to a point of being too much. You get adaptive sleep, or the AI enhanced color modes, or AI highlight video, all of the camera features. It's just generally, most of those are going to stay off for me. Although the one nice feature they do have is the smart sidebar, which is basically a quick launcher for a few different settings, things like screenshot, screen recording, voice recorder, or screen translate, or even some of your most used apps, and you can customize that as well. You know, for the £419 price tag, I don't think that this is too bad of an option. It even comes with a nice transparent case to protect it, and a screen protector pre-applied, and I would say that it generally offers a great usage experience. It's far from high-end, but it's also hardly a cheap feeling phone either. I would just call it decent. So that's a look at Oppo's Find X5 Lite 5G. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. That'll be an Amazon affiliate link, or a global Amazon affiliate link that you can check out pricing when and where you watch this, and pick up one yourself if you fancy. There'll also be plenty of other links in the description if you want to support the channel and me making these videos. There's different affiliate links, there's merch hoodies or t-shirts like this one. You can also just check out the subscribe button and the bell notification icon if you want to stay up to date on all the new videos from me, or check out the rest of the videos on the channel, as there are, well, probably too many to count. There's a couple of phone reviews as well if you're interested. The most recent one, I think, is the OnePlus Nord CE, so maybe take a look at that one if you want an even cheaper option. And yeah, that's kind of that really. I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.